What's up, y'all? Welcome back. So I normally talk about movies on this channel, but fun fact about me, I'm a huge Pretty Little Liars fan, and I want to rant a little bit about Pretty Little Liars. So we're talking about two separate series. So we have the first series, which aired in 2010, ended in 2017 after 7 seasons, and I was, religiously and hopelessly devoted to this series for that 7 years. Like, it had me in a chokehold. It owned my life for 7 years. And the way it ended, I'm still mad about it, but we're not talking about that. Then we got a spin-off reboot series, which I was kind of excited about, but then I heard Bailee Madison was going to be attached, and I love her, been a big fan of hers. I've basically watched this little girl grow up since Bridge to Terabithia. She was going to be a part of this new spin-off series called Pretty Little Liars Original Sin, which takes place in the state of Pennsylvania, much like the original series, but in a different town. The original series was in Rosewood. This one is Millwood. Rosewood was a suburb of Philadelphia. Millwood is a suburb of Pittsburgh. So we have a whole new set of liars, a completely different set of circumstances, but we do get A back in season 1 of this new reboot of Pretty Little Liars Original Sin. Now we're in season 2 and A is kind of done with, but we're on to a new villain, new boogeyman. That's cool and that's fine. That's not my issue. I just want to rant. So if you're not interested in Pretty Little Liars, allow me to entertain you with my rambling. So talking about the first season of the reboot, what really bugged me was just how slow it was. And looking back, I feel like that was just a lot of world building, a lot of character building, establishing, the setting and the tone of what the series was going to be. And it wasn't until about halfway in where things really started to pick up and it became interesting, it became fun. Now, the second season, the action pretty much starts right away. I mean, we've already set the tone, we've already got the setting established, we know who these characters are, and we know where they've been. So we don't need to do all that fancy introduction stuff. We can get right into the mess in the thick of things. So this second season is a lot better than the first one, I think, so far, but there are still some issues that I'm having, and it all has to do with just the characters in general. Why are you ranting, someone might ask? Because I have no one to talk about this with. So that's where y'all come in. Thank you, internet. There are too many characters in this television show. We have 5 main girls. We have Imogen, Noah, Minnie, they call her Mouse, Tabby, and Farron. And then you also have Kelly Beasley, who was a twin, and that was a whole thing in season 1. And then you have their parents, which played a big role in season 1, but they're kind of off to the side. And then you have their respective significant others. You have Farron's boyfriend, you have Minnie's boyfriend, who is a trans man, you have Noah's boyfriend, and now she's in the middle of a love triangle with another girl. We'll get into that later. So there are way too many characters in this series, and I don't just mean like the side characters or the supporting roles. There are too many main characters, which is crazy to say, right? Because we had 5 main characters in the original series. We had Hannah, Aria, Spencer, and Emily, plus Allison. And I say plus Allison because we really only saw Allison in flashback scenes and like hallucinations when the girls were either dreaming or they thought they were hallucinating. That's the only time we saw Allison, and we saw Allison that way up until about season 4. And that season 5 is when she became a main character. She really started to be part of the plot, and she kind of her presence took the series in a different direction. So we did have these 5 main girls. However, these 5 main girls were all integral to the story. They all made sense in the plot. If you took away one, it throws everything off. There was a center that held these characters together, something they had in common, and what they had in common was Allison. And on top of having Allison, who was the one who brought their friendship together in the first place, and they all had a different relationship with Allison, and Allison caused them different types of and kinds of problems. You have Aria, who witnessed her father cheating on her mother, and Allison was also there and caused problems that way by blackmailing her father and also causing Aria to act out a bit. You had Hannah, who was overweight, and Allison basically pushed her into an eating disorder. You had her rivalry with Spencer, and as it turns out, they had a lot more in common than they knew. They were very much alike. They butt heads a lot, and they were essentially family. And then you have Emily, who was gay, who was kind of in love with Allison, and Allison knew that, but played her, strung her along. They all had something from Allison, something to contribute to the lore of Allison. And because this was a big mystery, they all had pieces of information that were integral to the growing and development of that mystery. That just does not exist in this television show. There are too many bodies, and because not everyone is essential or important, for me, it makes it hard to remember everyone. They're really gung-ho trying to make all 5 girls important this second season. Keep talking about the 5 final girls. So much of the Pretty Little Liars, both the old series and the new one, center around paying an homage to old film and old television. You saw a lot of To Kill a Mockingbird, Psycho in the original Pretty Little Liars series. Even different references. So the Apple Rose Grill, the Radley Sanitarium. So things that were references to other old films and whatnot. And so there was definitely that part. And then you have this new series, which is kind of pulling at different tropes here and there. And a lot of that comes from one of our characters, Tabby. But we're going to go through each little character kind of a bit. And I'm going to tell you what my issues are. So you have Imogen, played by Bailee Madison. My issue with her is that she is clearly the main girl. Now, in the original series, I felt like Aria was the main girl. She was kind of our focal point, and that once we went off in different directions, we always came back to her and then we went back out, which is fine. I think that's normal, but it's clear that Imogen is the center of gravity here. She is the main character. You could off everyone else and keep her and nothing would change. I feel like nothing would change if you just put all the focus, because that's where all the trauma is. That's where all the drama is Imogen. She has more character, more personality, more development than the rest of the characters. You could build this entire series around her and we wouldn't miss anything if we just didn't include anyone else. So I think making her so much more prominent, so much more developed, and then having Bailee Madison, who is just so seasoned, it throws things off balance. Now, after Imogen, you have Tabby, played by Chandler Kenney. Now, Bailee Madison is the most seasoned actor in this entire series when you talk about, your 5 main girls. Everyone else is brand spanking new, or they just have a very small resume. Chandler Kenney, who plays Tabby, is coming from Disney Channel. She did a couple of these zombie movies, if I remember correctly. And she is where we get a lot of our film lore from, a lot of our movie references. She's movie obsessed, works at a movie theater, is an aspiring, scary movie film director. She is very, I feel like, integral to the story. We also have a lot of our drama and a lot of our trauma from her. Aside from Imogen, I feel like she has the most life in this entire story. Those two right there, you have to keep those. If we're gonna move this story forward, I feel like you could keep those two and everything will be fine. I love Tabby. Tabby's probably my favorite. She's obnoxious though, but she's my favorite. Farron is you can live with or you can live without her character, played by Zaria. This is also one of her very first roles. She has another film credit under her name that I could find. But in terms of, this is her big break, really. Congratulations to her. But I feel like her character is live with her, live without her. Her backstory, what she brings to the table is more so personality. What Imogen and Tabby lack in terms of just being stern, almost stiff, and just, tough as nails. I don't need anyone, that kind of attitude. Like, that's what she brings to the table. But she has nothing else to really offer. I feel like you can do without her and everything will be fine. But she does add a little bit of something. She adds a little bit of sass. She adds some conflict because she is the A or B kind of girl, black and white thinker. She's a ballerina. So that, I think, her being a ballerina adds to her personality, because with ballet, there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. And that's very much her mentality. And I like that about her, because I think like that to my own detriment sometimes. So yeah, I just feel like she doesn't really bring anything to the table other than personality. because there is no center here. There is no Allison. There is nothing that draws these characters together other than in the first season, where it turns out these events are happening to them because of their parents, but then their parents are just kind of thrown to the wayside in season 2. But even still, there's no center. There's nothing that keeps them together. There's no reason for them to still be together. Like there's nothing that personality-wise draws them in. There is no queen bee. There is no center of gravity. There's no sun that these characters are revolving around that made the series in and of itself so special. Allison was that sun, and yet for most of the series, she's missing. That's what's lacking here. So you have Tabby and Imogen, who are just the life of the show. So much personality. All of our drama and trauma are coming from them. And so much of the fear and scare in this television show is based off of drama and trauma, which can bug some people, but hey, I'm fine. Am I making any sense? Out of all 5 girls, Noah is the one whose name I keep forgetting the most. Why is she here? What's her purpose? She's just an extra body. She's just an extra face. She doesn't really have much of a personality that just stands out or separates her from the rest. She has an interesting backstory in that her mom is, addicted to drugs. Now her mom's in rehab. She was in juvie for a time. She's a track star, has a boyfriend. Now things are a little more interesting with her in season 2 because she has a love triangle with a girl that she met in juvie, but it seems so unnecessary because I feel like we haven't spent enough time with her boyfriend to really get the necessary tension from this love triangle. It's not like in, the first series where the significant others, so Ezra, Caleb, Toby, these guys who were in relationships with our main girls, we spent a lot of time with them. They were very much a part of the plot, a part of the story, a part of the happenings, engaged in the mystery of it all. We spent a lot of time with these dudes so that when other dudes were introduced into the story, causing tension in their relationships, we felt something. I'm not feeling anything with this love triangle where she's basically cheating on her boyfriend with this girl, but we don't know Sean. We saw him a little bit in the beginning. Every time we see him, he's all happy and smiling and he's sweet, nice enough dude, but it's such a waste. If we're not going to get to know him, if we're not going to fall in love with him a little bit, if you're not going to give us a reason to root for him, then why are you giving us a love triangle? What's the point? And now we have Minnie, our last of the 5. Not only did I keep forgetting her name season 1, but I just kept forgetting she was part of the equation at all. She was the most forgettable character. Why is she even here? What does she add? She's just another body. She's just a 5th person. I just felt like she was so pointless. Why are you here? Why should I care? I don't know anything about you. You're just quiet. You don't talk. You don't do anything. You don't add anything to the story. There is no reason for you to be in the middle of this plot. It'd be one thing if these were normal 22 episode seasons, but we have 10 episodes to tell a story and you're giving us nothing. I think part of the reason for her being, the only thing that she brings is forced diversity. This is where I might upset some people, but yeah, forced diversity. Now, in terms of the diversity of our 5 girls, we have 1 girl who's white, 2 who are black, 1 who's Latino, and then Minnie, who is, I'm assuming, Asian. And not only is she, Asian, so that's not the forced diversity that I'm talking about in terms of race, but in terms of sexuality. So Minnie is the daughter of 2 lesbian women, and she's also dating a trans man. And is this something that could happen in real life? Definitely, yeah, sure. That's not it. It just feels forced. It feels pushed. It doesn't feel normal or natural. It just feels like we were introduced to this character, Ash, for the sake of inclusion. Ash doesn't feel normal part of the story. Even when we get into season 2, Ash still just feels like a glorified extra. Am I against gay or trans characters in television film? No, I really don't care. I just hate forced diversity. I hate representation for representation's sake. I hate it when we're introducing this character, not because this character is important, but because we're trying to check off our inclusion boxes. I hate that. I think it's so insulting. And now we get into season 2, where I was starting to get hopeful. It felt like Minnie has a little more personality. She's got a little more pep in her step. She's starting to be a little more vocal. She seems to be part of the group instead of just an extra. But, and we just had episode 4. What I'm starting to gather, her sole purpose this season is to move the plot along. She's just there to add little things into the plot so that we can move forward. That's it. That's her entire purpose. That's it. Long story short, just to make it simple, too long don't read. There are too many cooks in this kitchen. It's like you have 5 cooks in a kitchen. One is cooking the meat, another is cooking the vegetables, and then you have 3 who are waiting to be told what to do. Now, am I gonna watch the rest of the series? Of course. I'm addicted to this stuff. I'm like a moth to a flame. I can't help myself. I need to know who Bloody Rose Waters is. Luckily, the overall story, detached from the characters, the overall story, the mystery of it all is far more interesting than the actual characters. Thank God that has me at least engaged. I want to know who Bloody Rose Waters is. I want to know how this person is related to Archie. I want to know if we're going to see any more interconnections with Rosewood. I want to know why Dr. Sullivan hasn't mentioned the Rosewood girls. I have so many questions. I need to know who pushed and injured Dr. Sullivan. I need to know what's going to happen with baby Estelle. I just need to know. So the story is great. The characters are just That's it. That's my rant. Thank you for listening. I greatly appreciate it. Even if you weren't listening, it was just nice to say all of that out loud. If you would love to, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you're watching the series, what do you think overall? Whether you like it, love it, whether you have issues or not. If you have different issues, I would love to hear them. But let's talk about it, because no one else listens to me when I talk about Pretty Little Liars. I just make people listen. So let me know what you think. Thank you for stopping by, and I'll see you next time.